So change is good, or that's what everybody tells us, right? Change is supposed to be good. It is supposed to be the next best thing. It is supposed to be wonderful. Nothing in life stays the same. Change is the only constant. And that's actually, at some level, true. But change is also a lot more complicated than that. If you really think about it, change, when we choose it and we choose to change, is wonderful. It is growth. It is a new experimentation. It is developing a new part of ourselves. However, change, when forced upon us or not of our choosing, is very difficult. It is complicated. It is ugly. It is usually very overwhelming. And that's usually when people kind of feel like their life is falling apart. What's the difference? One is chosen, one is not. One is us seeking to be better, to be more, to do. The other is somebody else making that choice for us, that we are no longer in control of that choice, that we are no longer the ones steering the ship. And that is a choice that's outside of our control. We are simply along for the ride at that point. So, how do you deal with change that is not of your choosing? And this can be something like the end of a relationship, the end of a job, being forced to move. It can be extreme as death. Somebody dies in your family or friend circle. And that's change. That is traumatic change in some ways. And that's when people start to feel like their life is falling apart. They get overwhelmed. They get fired from a job that they had been at for years, and now they have to start over. And starting over is another topic that I would like to talk about, and I will make a video on the process of starting over and reinventing oneself after change. But the process of dealing with the change itself is complicated, and it's one of mindset. Because the initial shock of something that is big and dramatic and life-changing is difficult to swallow. It's difficult for everybody. So if you are in a situation where something like that happens, a catastrophic event, a loss, something that truly is changing your environment, that's a very difficult process for everyone to go through. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling just completely out of sync with everything, that's okay. That's actually going to happen. You should expect that. At that particular time, you are out of sync with everything. All of a sudden, nothing fits together anymore. Your identity of self doesn't fit anymore. Your identity of your environment, your world, your space, your daily routine, your rituals no longer fit. There is a piece missing. So, of course, if you take a gear out of a machine, the machine is not going to function properly. The machine may stop functioning altogether. That should be expected. So don't beat yourself up over dealing with change, of dealing with something that has kind of adjusted the whole mechanism. So outside of having compassion for yourself and giving yourself the leeway and the grace to know that this happens, this is life, things change, and we have to deal with it. You have to, as they say, roll with the punches, which is just a kind of ridiculous term, but it means to flow with things. I think of it as being water. You are water that's literally just changing through a different form, through a different space. You have to be able to learn, and I can say you have to. You don't have to do anything. But if you do learn to navigate and flow with change and accept it, it becomes a much easier process. Even really horrific changes, life changes, these things that are jarring and horrible at the moment, there is always a blessing to it. There is always that silver lining. There is always something that is coming. And if we take change and difficult change into the next level, let's put a different perspective on this. Everything in life, in the world, in the universe has balance. There is balance to all things. That's why there's day, there's night, there's light, there's dark. Tides ebb and flow. There is balance. Everything works that way. So think of life and your experiences as a scale, and they're relatively even. Okay, you have things that are holding your life in balance. If we take away one of those things, let's say losing a job, that's something that's I think everybody can relate to on some level. So you lose your job. That's a horrible experience because it creates chaos. It creates financial chaos. It creates chaos in your stability, your home life, your ability to provide. There are many things that will be affected by losing a job. However, as horrible and as overwhelming as that is, in order for something better to come into your life, whether that is something that you are manifesting, whether you are wishing for, you can take any philosophy, whether it is law of attraction or whether it's just destiny. There needs to be space for that new thing or new job in this instance to fill. If there's no space, then there's no room for that new thing. If a relationship doesn't end, there is no room for that new person. If you don't leave a circumstance, even if it's voluntarily, let's say, for example, you want to move. I'd like to move. Something I have an aspiration to do at some point, hopefully sooner than later. But in order for me to move, I need to make space for that in my life. What does that define? Well, making space in terms of moving, well, it's kind of a weird concept, isn't it? I mean, you're just going from one spot to another. How is that making space? Well, making space is all the other things that need to change or I need to let go of to allow this to happen. That means I have to let go of a lot of possessions, things that I've held on to, things that may have incredible sentimental value. But if they're no longer serving me and they're preventing me or taking too much space that stops me from being able to move, like, oh, I can't move because I have this piece of furniture that means so much to me, which means I will never change my life, nor will I change myself. No. Let's be honest, there's very few things in this world that actually mean enough that should stop you from changing your life, from being the better person, from going and doing and being everything that you're meant to be. I'm meant to be in another place. I know that. I'll make a video about that. It's kind of an interesting thing. I know I'm supposed to be someplace else. In order to do that, I need to let go of most all of my possessions. All the stuff you see behind me, this is just one room in my house. I have a house. I have a lot of things that I will need to donate or sell or get rid of so that I am ultra portable. That's a big thing. How do you give up a life worth of stuff? How do I change all of this? How do I make room so that I can move and I have freedom again? I have to be willing to let go. I have to allow change to happen. If I don't make room by getting rid of unnecessary things, if I don't make room by preparing myself and making the emotional detachment from a house that was built by my family that I love dearly. I've lived here for a very long time. This is part of essentially the legacy of my family. My great-grandfather put the nails in those walls and hung the drywall, and my grandfather put the roof on, and my great-uncle dug the basement. This is a house built by my family. Every nail was placed by a family member. I'm the 5th generation to live here. And I recognize that change is coming. I am choosing change in this particular instance. I am in control of being able to allow myself the time for detachment and to separate myself. Some people aren't that fortunate. Some people have a house that's foreclosed on and they have to move. But in that case, then space has been automatically made for them. They did not get the choice. In my case, I am choosing to make space. Hence, I am choosing to get rid of my possessions, to keep only the absolute most meaningful pieces of paper or tiny things that I can either take with me or can put in a storage locker. Everything else has to go because my soul needs to be someplace else. And there's nothing wrong with that, and there's no shame in that. I am choosing change. I am choosing to make room for it. But if we go back to our instance of losing a job, well, that was forced upon you. But that job has to end in order for a much better job, a much better position, a better life that could be made. But if you don't have the room for it, it has no place to grow. So it's a little bit of a tangent about change and a little bit of a tiny glimpse into my philosophy on like laws of attraction and things like that. Spoiler, I don't believe that you actually call anything into existence. It's already there. You just need to make room for it. And if that sounds like a really interesting concept or a different spin on things, then leave a comment below. I actually do look at those things. And if you enjoy really terrible production of me sitting here and ranting and talking about weird topics and mindset and all kinds of strange things, then do the things, the bells, the buttons, the whatever it is, so we can be internet friends, because I could use more internet friends. I like having internet friends. I also have a community where if you want to be my friend and talk about things outside of just a video on YouTube, then there'll be a link somewhere in like description, pin somewhere. Look for a link. It's over on School. And we can hang out and talk because there I need more friends too. Tiny little community, only a couple of people. And the cat is not very talkative. She doesn't do the typing thing very well. So it's usually me talking to myself a lot. So come over and enjoy and join and do the things and talk. Anyway, I'm rambling. Become my internet friend. I will shut up, I promise. And I will see you in the next video.